Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. The purpose of this video is to expose the Masonic ownership over Christianity in the Bible. And just so Christians don't feel singled out, what I'm about to share is true of all of the major spiritualities of this world: Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and more. The Freemasons, they have two important mottos: divide and conquer, and order through chaos. With regards to religion, it's easy to understand division. All over this world, people are divided over religion. My mother, as an example, grew up in a small farming town in North Dakota in the 50s, after World War II. It was a town that was divided down the middle, one half Lutheran, the other half Catholic. And my mom's family and other families, they taught their children, oh, you're Lutheran, don't play with the Catholic children. Oh, you're Catholic, don't play with the Lutheran children. And this is just within Christianity. This is in a time after World War II, a war that was fought having much to do with religion, Christianity, Judaism. World War I and World War II, both about establishing the Zionist state of Israel for the Jewish people. Now here we are living at this day and age where the masses are being programmed to think Islam is dangerous. Many Christians hold this belief that Islam is dangerous and it needs to be eradicated from the earth. And the reason they hold this belief is not because they know any dangerous Islamic people, but because they're told from sources that they trust that this is the truth. Had any of these Christian people ever met someone who's of the Islamic faith, they would quickly see that, oh, these Islamic people are pretty nice, and they're pretty welcoming, and they don't discriminate against me because of my religion. You know, that's what's amazing. In Islam, they are taught, the Christians, they're cool. They follow the last prophet, Jesus. Muhammad in Islam is supposed to be the latest prophet since Jesus, but in Islam it says there will be no more prophets after Muhammad. Just as in Christianity it says there will be no more prophets after Jesus. It's because these texts are created by a gang of people that want to influence groups for the purpose of divide and conquer. You don't have to think that deep about it to understand it. And what I'm about to reveal in this video, especially for someone who's never experienced this information, it should be very solid evidence for the Masonic ownership over these religions. So we're about to read Psalm 74, and I want people to think about it in light of this nation that we live in, the United States of America, as well as those of you who live in other Western nations that are very similar. But before we read Psalm 74, I want to establish the significance of 74. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words, and this is very much a practice in the Bible. I learned about gematria through reading the Bible. Gematria sums to 74, as does English. This is a very important number to the Freemasons. In the United States, which has a 7-4 July 4th birthday, there is only one state with a gematria of 74. 1 out of 50 states sums to 74. It's Oregon, the 33rd state. And we'll talk about the significance of 33 and 74 in just a moment. Oregon's abbreviated OR. O's the 15th letter, R's the 18th. The abbreviation is 33. Cross equals 74. Think about Jesus crucified on the cross at age 33. Gospel, the story of Jesus, equals 74. Lucifer, the word for Satan, the counter to Jesus, sums to 74. Lucifer only used in the King James Version of the Bible. Muhammad, the latest prophet since Jesus in the Quran, 74. Joshua, the English translation of Jesus, 74. Yeshua, the Greek translation of Jesus, 74. Jesus, 74. The word Messiah has a gematria of 74, as does Jewish. Think about the Old Testament, which comes before the New Testament, which speaks of Jesus. The Old Testament for the Jews, Jewish 74. Masonic 74. Now, real quick, I want to go to Christianity.com's website. If you research when the first Bible was published, you will come to find out that an official date is not known. It's a date lost in history, but the most widely agreed to date is March 22nd, 1457. This isn't official, but what stands out is the March 22nd. In most parts of the world, 22 the day is written before the month 3. Masonic in Jewish gematria equals 223. Also in simple English gematria is 74. If you read the Bible, the final book, Revelation, says the synagogue of Satan will rule in the end times. The synagogue of Satan equals 223 like Masonic. And notice in Jewish gematria it equals 1201. In numerology, 0 doesn't count. 1201 is a lot like 121, the number for Revelation. If you read Revelation, the most commonly used numbers in the book are 7 and 4, overwhelmingly. Lots of 4s and 7s. Also in Revelation comes the name Philadelphia. It is one of 7 churches talked about in Revelation. Philadelphia is the original name of the capital of the United States of America, which has a 7-4 birthday. These are all Masonic signatures. 33 is also a very important number to the Masons and a very important number in the Bible. Jesus crucified at 33, supposedly performed 33 miracles. The first book in the Bible is Genesis, which has a gematria of 33. In Revelation, the leader of the army of heaven is Michael. Michael, a name with 33 gematria. Think about how people are taught to say amen or amen at the end of their prayers, a word with 33 gematria. Should be noted that the word Christian sums to 47, the reflection is 74. In this world, so many of us are taught from a young age to be Christian and to never question the belief system. We're taught that even questioning it is a sin. Authority equals 47. We live in a world with Masonic authority. Obey, 47. Judge, 47. Gavel, 47. I point out that the word believe has gematria of 33. Just like Genesis, the first book. Just like Michael. Just like so much more. There's a whole lot of 33 in the Bible. Also, with regards to this 47-74 coding, I point out that judge is 47, jury is 74. Numbers of great significance, gematria, a very important language to the Masons, to the Zionists, and, if you learn to use it, a very important language in the Bible, revealing who wrote it. We'll talk more about it. But let's take a moment and just read Psalm 74 and think about it in light of this world we live in modern times, especially for those of us in the United States of America that has the 7-4 birthday. O God, why have you rejected us forever? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? Think about how the Bible is full of sheep references. To me, when I read the Bible, I feel like it was written in a mocking tone. Looking down on the people who read it, trying to intimidate them, trying to make them fearful and scared. No different than the people who rule over us today in media and government with constant fear-mongering. Right now there's a presidential election going on and there's a bunch of Masonic buffoons on the stage. One of them is Ted Cruz, who opens up debates by saying what a proud Christian he is and how we need to bomb the Middle East into oblivion. It's insane. It's insane. But people go along with this. Anyhow, a lot of people can relate with those first 2 lines. O God, why have you rejected us forever? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? There's a lot of good Christian people that live in this nation. They're believers, but they follow the golden rule. They're good to their neighbors. They're decent people. And they ask themselves this question. They say, why do I pray? And why does all this hardship come my way? Why does it come my family's way? Why does it come my friend's way? I used to be one of these people. I was raised a Lutheran as a child. I used to pray. I used to pray to God every night that he would solve the problems in the world, in my life, and everyone else's. And I just realized, after a decade or so, my prayers were falling on deaf ears. They weren't being answered. The world was getting worse around me. I know a lot of people have this same experience. Moving on. Remember the nation you purchased long ago. Isn't that a weird thing? This is in reference to God. Does God purchase nations? The people of your inheritance whom you redeemed, Mount Zion where you dwelt. Think about it. We live in a world ruled by Zionists who are trying to fulfill Bible prophecy, bringing about nonsensical states. To many people in the Middle East's chagrin, think of all the suffering Muslims and Christians because of the Zionist state of Israel. Madmen trying to fulfill prophecy. Just so you know, the word prophecy has gematria of 106. The Zionist state of Israel was established in the year 47 on the 333rd day on a date with 106 numerology, the date of prophecy. Old Testament comes before the New Testament. Think about that with a logical mind. Who purchases nations? Louisiana Purchase. This nation, the United States of America, as well as the rest of North America, as well as many other nations in this world, was colonized by the Masons, by the Zionist Jews of their time. Learn your history, you'll see this is true. There's a reason the birthdays 7-4 and Masonic and Jewish both equal 74. Moving on, turn your steps towards these everlasting ruins, all this destruction the enemy has brought on the sanctuary. What I hear in these words are blame for the destruction we witness. And this is a world full of blame and people who are taught to blame and never be accountable. But we also live in a nation where the land has been purposefully destroyed by the people who've come over here. And on that note, I want to talk about another revelation I had as a child and part of the reason I left Christianity. I'm part native. You learn about the native people, especially if you read and research yourself. You come to find out that the native people who lived here before us, before they were wiped out by a purposeful genocide, a genocide that was waged by a genocide that was waged by Christians, European Christians, who said the native people were godless and heathens because they didn't know about Jesus and they didn't know about the Bible. But anyway, these people were eradicated, a people who lived here for thousands of years at peace with the land, who respected nature. The United States used to be a beautiful place. It still is. There's still a lot of beauty here, but much of it's been destroyed. Mountains have been cut down to be made into temporary energy for the sake of profit. Forests have been completely eradicated to build homes and houses and Masonic lodges. Once upon a time, all that maintained here and all the wildlife maintained here, and people were to live in balance. Those were the native people. People who didn't know about Jesus, who'd never heard of a Bible. They had their own spiritual stories. And honestly, if you believe in God, you have to recognize that the world is God's creation. We're God's creation. Do you think God would want us to destroy the earth? Destroy his other creations? Destroy the other life here? Some Christians are listening to this right now and they're going, yes, it says in the Bible that God gave us the world for us to, consume. Yeah, was that God's message or the Masons' message, who are very much invested in money and wealth and power and controlling people through these mechanisms. Think about it. Moving on. Your foes roared in the place where you met with us. They set up their standards as signs. They behaved like men wielding axes to cut through a thicket of trees. And did they ever? You know, the middle of this country used to be full of trees as tall as mountains. Now it's nothing. No trees. They smashed all the carved paneling with their axes and hatchets. They burned your sanctuary to the ground. They defiled the dwelling place of your name. We see this going on, here in this nation and in other parts of the world. The destruction of ancient temples, blamed on false boogeymen. The Temple of Baal, destroyed last year in Syria, blamed on ISIS, and now it's being brought back to New York. You don't see the way this works? They said in their hearts, we will crush them completely. They burned every place where God was worshipped in the land. And so they have. The native people, they used to worship God. Not the Christian telling of God, but the God that saw over them, that gave them the beautiful land, that gave them the opportunity to live. A lot of those places destroyed, burned to the ground, chopped into splinters. We are given no signs from God. No prophets are left, and none of us know how long this will be. How long will the enemy mock you, God? Will they revile your name forever? See, a lot of Christians, what they say to me is they say, Zach, don't you see? God and Jesus is real, and the powers that be, they mock his name. I think you guys have it halfway right. These people mock God, absolutely. They mock all that's right in the world. They're all about them. They're all about their selfish deeds, their power, their control, their grand manipulation. But why do you think it is that they would allow this book, the Bible, to remain in existence? Despite all else. They don't stand for anything right, but they're going to let this one text exist, and they're going to help mass publish it and spread it all over the earth and make movies and TV shows about it. A lot of you come and you say, Zach, don't you see all the mocking of Jesus and God and TV and movies? And really, I don't. You know what I typically see? I typically see Jesus and God as presented as the right thing in these movies that are made by these Masons and Zionists. How many movie scenes have you seen where somebody does something awful and then they go to the church to pray or ask for forgiveness? It's like a reinforcement of how they want you to think and behave. Christianity teaches that we're all sinners and, you can sin and be bad as long as you go and you pray to Jesus and you believe in Jesus. And that's the message I see the Masons and Zionists reinforcing. They want this behavior because they know it's ultimately destructive for humanity. Again, you're looking at someone who was robbed by their Christian neighbor after I reached out to help them because they were in need. And because I showed them what I had, they got a hint and they got greedy. And they came over and they took advantage of the situation the first opportunity they had. And now that person drives to church in the exact same vehicle as me, which they went out and bought right after they robbed my house. Buying their fourth vehicle for two people who are twice my age. Gluttonous people, Christians who go to church every Sunday. And a vehicle bought with stolen dollars. So this is what I see in the world. Christians thinking they have the right to be terrible people because they're believers and they're born sinners. Moving on. Why do you hold back your hand, your right hand? You know what the Masons do with their right hand? We don't have a suit here, but they tuck it in their thing. It's called the hidden hand. Ted Cruz, who I was just talking about, he does this every time he pledges. Sticks his right hand inside of his vest. Masonic pose called the hidden hand. Why do you hold back your hand, your right hand? I mean, just think about this. This is God. Does God even have hands? Take it from the folds of your garment and destroy them. I feel like I'm listening to Ted Cruz. This is what he does. I believe in Jesus and I want to carpet bomb the Muslims. But God is my king from long ago. He brings salvation on the earth. Remember George W. Bush, Operation Shock and Awe, bombing people, talking about his belief in Jesus? Just goes on and on. It was you who split open the sea by your power. You broke the heads of the monster in the waters. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert. It was you who opened the springs and streams. You dried up the ever-flowing rivers. Think about how we've dammed the rivers in this nation, killing much of the natural life in it, doing it for the sake of creating energy to power machines that have overtaken man. Living nonsensically, living in ways that are insane. You know, God gave us the earth, this opportunity to live, minds that can think, minds that know right from wrong, you know, a system that tells us when we do wrong, when we do right. We have feelings of bad and good. God doesn't work through books. God works through these natural processes, through the natural environment, an environment that becomes more artificial, more man-made, more contrived every day. We're a people born in a world separated from nature, from God's creation, and told to believe all we need to know about God in a book that was written by Masons. The day is yours, and yours also the night. You established the sun and the moon. It was you who set all the boundaries of the earth. You made both summer and winter. Remember how the enemy has mocked you, Lord. How foolish people have reveled in your name. Do not hand over the life of your dove to wild beasts. Do not target the lives of your afflicted people forever. Have regard for your covenant, because haunts of violence fill the dark places of the land. Do not let the oppressed retreat in disgrace. May the poor and needy praise your name. Rise up, O God, and defend your cause. Remember how fools mock you all day long. Do not ignore the clamor of your adversaries, the uproar of your enemies, which rises continually. And you have to remember, as people are reading this, they've already gone through all the passages about how the God in this book is the only God. Questioning this God will get you in the pit of fire. So it's not a loving God. It's not an accepting God. You know, it's a hateful God. It's a vengeful God. It's a jealous God. It's a book that tells you anyone who disagrees is the enemy, which is how we lead to genocides of sane native people. Heathens, because they don't have books. Remember how books are created, by tearing down the natural environment. So with regards to sheep, I want to talk about sheep and Masonic ownership of society. It goes beyond the Bible. Remember, the Bible is a tool in the overall control scheme waged against us. When I was a teenager, I was in middle school, and there was this great scientific accomplishment. The cloning of Dolly, a sheep, supposedly. Can you make this out? Is it big enough here? Dolly's existence was announced to the public on February 22nd, 1997, after being born more than a year later, July 5th, 1996. So, February 22nd is the 53rd day of the year. The word religion in gematria equals 53. So does the word sheep. Anyone who has read the Bible knows the many sheep references. Here's what else is interesting about that date, February 22nd, written 2/22. It's the 53rd day of the year, and it corresponds very well with hell. If you read Revelation in the Bible, it's about hell coming to earth. And many of us know this world we live in is very much like hell. You know, a lot of us who are good are very familiar with the phrase, no good deed will go unpunished. Sometimes I often think that, God really does hate me and really does hate the other good people of this world. Because so often when I reach out to help people, Horrible things come my way in record time. And it's never stopped me from trying to be a good person, live by the golden rule. You know, it baffles my mind, but I just say, okay, this is part of, I don't know, this is part of some spiritual teaching. Eventually, someday, karma will come through. The older I get, the more I'm not sure karma's true, but maybe one day I'll prove myself wrong. Something interesting about karma, hope, faith, karma, they all have gematria 44, which is also the kill number, and normally a number attached to negative things. Okay, moving on. The date of the Dali revelation was a date with revelation numerology. And again, revelation's about hell coming to earth in many ways. From the date Dali was born until the date Dali was revealed was a span of 232 days. This is a span of 33 weeks. 232 is an interesting number because Satan in Jewish gematria equals 232. I should note, however, that gospel in Jewish gematria also equals 232, as does Oregon. Remember Oregon, the 33rd state with the 74 gematria? So it's not to say that the number's all bad, but in the case of hiding a secret of cloning a living organism and then revealing it all this time later, it's awfully suspicious. Also, the date Dali was born, May 7th, 1996. July 5th. Is that right? July 5th, 1996. That date, which can be written 5/7 anyway, it's a date with 37 numerology. Hell in simple English gematria equals 37. Don't you find it quite interesting that all of this Dali story, the revelation of the cloning of a sheep, has all of these hell connections? When I was in middle school, what I was asking all of my teachers and every science teacher in the building is the same thing, and no one had an answer. If they can clone a sheep, can't they clone a human? Can't they clone any other mammal? I mean, if you can clone one mammal, why can't you clone the next? And nobody had an answer. And, you know, this has all been part of my coming to understand the way the world is. I saw from a young age, most of my teachers weren't that bright, couldn't answer simple questions, just regurgitated the information that was told to them. So I learned from a young age, it's okay to question. It's okay to think for yourself. The majority of people in this world obviously don't have a clue what the hell's going on. They're just believers, just like the next guy. So that little tangent on sheep, this world we live in, Masonic ownership. I should have mentioned that she was born in the year 96. Freemason equals 96, as does Satanism. A lot of people say Freemasonry is Satanism in disguise. Think about how it ties in with all the other information. The next thing I want to talk about is 42 in the Bible. The first Bibles printed, the Gutenberg Bibles, were called 42-line Bibles. 42 is another number that shows up in the Bible. In Revelation, there's this passage, Revelation 13:5. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. There's also another 42 in Revelation. 42. From beginning to the end. The way Matthew begins, the first book of the New Testament, let me just show you something real quick. Freemason equals 42. Matthew equals 27. The New Testament is 27 books. 39 books in the Old Testament, 27 books in the New Testament. We just talked about the word beast. Beast has gematria 47, just like Christian, a word used often in the Bible. I have Bob Marley up here because Bob Marley, a major supporter of Christianity, sung a lot about Christianity and Jesus and Zion in his lyrics. Bob Marley's solo career began in 1974. Bob equals 19, Marley equals 74. Put it together, it equals 93. He died in ritualistic fashion on a date connected to his name. 93, crucifix equals 93. Saturn also equals 93. If you put Bob and Marley together, it sums to 93. In Jewish gematria, Saturn sums to 511. Bob Marley would die 5/11, May 11th. Also, jumping around here, Gutenberg Bible has gematria of 66. The first Bibles published, the Gutenberg Bibles, were 66 books in length, 39 old, 27 new. Also called the 42-line Bible, like Freemason. And how does Matthew begin? The first book of the New Testament? It begins by naming the 42 families that lead to the genealogy of Jesus. 14, 14, and 14 for a sum of 42. And to me, the beginning of Matthew is proof that the Bible is not the Word of God. If God wanted to command human beings how to behave, how to, live, why would he write in such inefficient, nonsensical ways? Why would he have anyone memorize the 42 people that led up to Jesus? What is the purpose of this? Think about what happens to us in this world. We're growing up in a world, we're living in a world controlled by Masons from the beginning. We're sent to school at a young age. And what do we do in school? We mostly learn stuff that is not relevant to our lives. And we're given tons of busy work, just kept busy with all this stuff. And so much of it frustrates us and stresses us out. And we have to do these meaningless projects over and over that don't advance our understanding of the world. They just eat our time. This is all part of the control mechanisms. That's why the Bible is so wordy with so few important points. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of truth in the Bible, but it could be more efficient. The Bible could be condensed to one book. It could just be the golden rule. Imagine if everybody walked away from the Bible saying, all I need to do is treat everybody with respect and dignity as I want to be treated. And that's all they had to think about. That would be more effective than what's in there now that's open to misinterpretation that leads to all the wrongdoing. All you Christians who talk about radical Islam and how dangerous it is, there's radicals in every religion. Look at the pro-lifers who blow up abortion clinics. And even as I say that, I put an asterisk next to it because part of me thinks that a lot of that is also propaganda just to create this whole paradigm we live in. But, there's a reason that Matthew begins with 42 families. This is all signatures from the Masons who rule over us. Remember where we started with Masonic 74, 223. We just read Psalm 74. So let me close with a question. You know now why I'm not a Christian. What I want to know from you is, why are you a Christian? You don't have to subscribe to a religion that was force-fed to you to be spiritual. I've always been a spiritual person. I've never stopped believing in God. I've always lived by the golden rule. I've just used my own mind, my own heart, to do what's right in the world. And what I can say, honestly, is I've never done anything bad to anyone. If I have, it was by accident, and I don't know about it today. But I'm always conscious of my behavior and how I'm impacting other people. I always try to be truthful and honest and helpful to people. One of the only things that makes me happy as a person is helping out other people. And from what I've read, that's true for all of us. Our greatest feelings of happiness come when we do right for other people. So, it seems that naturally we should be better as a people. We have to start asking ourselves why we're not. And, when you think deeper, the answers become transparent as well. From a young age, we've been stressed out. We've had people do wrong to us. This builds anger. It builds tension. It builds feelings of vengeance. And so much of us are taking out these emotions constantly on other people as we go through this world. Had we been raised right from the beginning, had we been told the right things from the beginning, we'd live in a better world. One that's a lot less like hell and more like heaven. To me, heaven and hell are the ways earth is and the way earth should be. We need to turn this world from hell into heaven, and we can do that by becoming better people. And you don't have to be a Christian to do that. I know so many people already turned off this video who need to hear it, but for those of you who are still here, if you live this world and you subscribe to beliefs based on a reward system, which is also a part of Christianity, let me tell you something real quick here. So many people are told that if they don't believe, they will be punished. And at the same time, if they do believe, they will be rewarded. You know who behaves this way? People who want something from someone else. I'll punish you if you don't listen to me. I'll reward you if you do. And again, this comes back to belief. Do you think this is how God would operate? God, the creator of this world, the creator of us? You think he would make these type of rules? You don't believe all the words in this book, straight to hell. But if you do, straight to heaven. You know? Doesn't that seem childish? Doesn't that seem petty? God's supposed to be almighty, yet has these petty human behaviors. This is why thinking is greater than believing. And having courage is more important than succumbing to what those around you want you to do with your life. There was a time when my mother used to demonize me for speaking out against Christianity. At this day and age, she doesn't see herself as a Christian and thinks the religion's a fraud too. So, I'm glad my mom came around. And more people in this world can come around if they just think, and they stop believing. All right, truth seeker, until next time.